The door to the small Tulsa apartment swung open, and officers froze. On the kitchen table sat a plate, a fork, and something no one expected to see. The air felt wrong, cold, heavy, and quiet as a church at night. A teenage boy stood nearby, calm as a stone. "You're late," he said, almost bored. His name was Joshua Anderson. In that moment, one officer whispered, "This isn't just a robbery case." The teen gave a thin smile. "It was payback," he said softly. "And I wanted to know how far I'd go." The room tilted with shock, then boots pounded the hall. Weeks earlier, Tulsa felt normal. Kids played basketball in cracked driveways, sprinklers hissed on front lawns, and porch lights blinked on at dusk. Joshua kept to himself. He was small, pale, and always in a gray hoodie. He worked odd jobs, swept a mechanic's shop, and rode the city bus to the edge of town. Neighbors said he was quiet, polite, and strange in a smart way. He spent late nights at the library reading about famous crimes and mistakes cops make. He moved like a shadow, there, then gone, nothing to remember except the heavy stare he left behind. Joshua's life had sharp edges. His dad was out of the picture. Money was tight. He told friends that people walked over him like a rug. When a local teen jumped him outside a store and took his cash, Joshua's ears rang with heat and shame. "It's not fair," he muttered. He began keeping a little list in a spiral notebook, names, times, places. Not just of the boy who robbed him, but of anyone who laughed, looked down at him, or told him, no. The list grew. So did the quiet anger. He said 3 words to his reflection: "Make it even." The first gunshot happened behind a row of stores near the river. It was late, and the alley lights flickered. A man known for rough talk and quick hands fell to the ground, and the night swallowed the sound. People nearby thought it was a car backfiring. Joshua walked away slow, breathing steady, like he'd practiced it in his mind 1,000 times. At home, he washed his hands and ate cereal while a police siren wailed in the distance. He slept, dreamless. In the morning, he wrote 1 word in his notebook beside a name: settled. Tulsa officers connected that shooting to other crimes: fast, mean, and quiet. A wallet taken here. A phone there. Every scene felt like the same ghost had slipped through. The city got nervous. Parents kept kids inside. Shop owners locked doors early. The detective leading the case, Mark Danner, kept seeing the same shape in the blurry cameras: a small teen, head down, hood up, moving like he had all the time in the world. "Revenge and robbery," Danner said. "He's not just stealing. He's sending messages." The map on the squad room wall grew with red pins like a rash. Joshua stayed 2 steps ahead. He studied bus routes, alleys, and back doors. He watched people who had crossed him, not just for minutes but for days, when they left home, who they met, where they kept cash. He didn't brag. He didn't post. He didn't tell anyone. He liked the quiet and the control. Sometimes he sat by the river and skipped stones until dusk. "They think I'm weak," he whispered. The river didn't answer. He tucked a small silver locket into his pocket, a keepsake from someone who once said he'd never be brave. The word burned. Brave. Then came the night that turned bad into worse. At a small house on the city's north side, a door was left unlocked. A neighbor later said they heard soft talking, like a TV in another room. No one heard a struggle. No one saw the teen leave. What detectives would find later would change the whole case. It wasn't just another killing. Something had happened in that kitchen that made seasoned officers step outside for air. The story would spread fast through Tulsa, first as a rumor, then as a headline that made the city's stomach turn. Detective Danner's team found thin threads. A shoe print with a worn heel. A bus pass with smudged ink. A library computer login under a name that matched a school file. Step by step, the ghost got heavier, closer, more real. When they finally placed Joshua's gray hoodie on the evidence table, the room went silent. He's a kid, one officer said, voice low. A kid doing this. Danner didn't blink. Kids make choices too, he answered. He circled Friday night on the calendar in red. We pick him up before he picks someone else. That Friday, they watched the small apartment from 2 streets away. The hallway light buzzed. A TV inside droned. At 10:14 p.m. Joshua came home with a small paper bag and a flat, tired expression. He locked the door, turned the sink on, and stood there, thinking. He laid out a plate, a fork, something wrapped in plastic. The apartment smelled like bleach and metal. When the knock came, hard, fast, final, Joshua looked at the door like he'd been expecting it. Do it, he said to no one. He set the fork down and waited, still as a photo. The arrest felt like falling through ice, quick, cold, and shocking. Officers poured into the room. Hands grabbed his wrists. Someone read rights in a steady voice. Joshua didn't fight. He looked at Detective Danner and asked, almost curious, what took you so long? The kitchen table held the quiet, awful proof of a line crossed, evidence that moved the case from revenge and robbery to something darker than anyone wanted to imagine. A rookie officer stepped back, swallowing hard. Danner stared at the teen and spoke evenly, this ends now. Joshua tilted his head, eyes flat. For you, he said. And the room seemed to shrink as everyone understood, they had caught him, but the true story of how far he'd gone was only just beginning. The station felt like winter. Bright lights. Quiet walls. Joshua sat in the interview room with his hands folded, cuffs clicking softly when he moved. Detective Mark Danner laid a folder on the table. He did not raise his voice. You know why we're here, he said. Joshua nodded once. Because I kept score, he answered. He looked at the small camera in the corner and gave a tiny smile, like he was greeting an old friend. The room hummed. The tape rolled. Danner started simple. Tell me about the alley by the river. Joshua stared at the water ring on the table. He started it, he said. I ended it. His words were flat, like reading from a list. He spoke about times and bus stops but skipped over feelings. When Danner asked, did you plan the kitchen? Joshua's eyes flicked up. I planned everything, he said. He wasn't bragging. He was stating the weather. A chill moved through the room. A public defender named Kelly Marsh entered with a notebook and a calm voice. She asked for a break. She told Joshua to stop talking. Let me help you, she said. Joshua watched her, curious. Help me do what? He asked. Be understood, she said. He looked back at the mirror. They don't want to understand, he replied. They want to stop being afraid. Kelly set her pen down. Then start with the truth, she said. He shrugged. Truth is easy. People are hard. In the hallway, news crews pressed against a rope line. Microphones lifted like spears. Teen suspect in Tulsa spree, a reporter said. Revenge mixed with robbery, said another. Neighbors told stories of the quiet kid in the gray hoodie. Some swore they had seen him carry grocery bags for an older woman. Others remembered how he stared too long. Parents held their kids' hands tighter as the courthouse date was set. The city waited for the next shoe to drop. Back in the lab, Tech studied the items from the kitchen. Gloves snapped. Labels clicked. Nothing graphic was shown or said aloud, but every person in that room felt the weight of what they handled. A senior tech whispered, "This changes the case." The report moved up the chain fast. Now the file didn't read only robbery and murder. It spoke of something colder, stranger, choices made past any normal line. Danner read it once, closed his eyes, and signed the request for extra security. Joshua's mother came to see him. Her hands shook as she held a foam cup of water. "Josh," she said, "look at me." He turned, slow. For a second his face softened. He was just a kid again, tired, small, lost. I tried, she said. I know, he answered. But it was already happening. A tear slid down her cheek. Why didn't you ask for help? He looked at the table. Because help comes with rules, he said. And I needed a result. The guard tapped the door. Time was up. The first court hearing drew a crowd that filled every bench. Cold light fell through tall windows. Joshua wore a plain jail shirt and stood straight, eyes forward. The judge spoke firmly about the charges. Kelly Marsh stood beside him and asked for safety, fairness, and time. The prosecutor listed the scenes, the pins on the map, the careful steps that made a path. Gasps moved through the room like wind. Joshua did not react. He stared at the clock and tapped one finger against his leg, counting seconds only. He understood. When the court took a recess, Danner met Joshua in a side room. Why the list? He asked. Why those names? Joshua tilted his head. They made choices. So did I. Danner leaned in. You crossed a line you can't uncross. Joshua looked almost puzzled. Lines move, he said. People move them when it helps. Danner opened a file. Tell me if there are more, he said. Joshua looked at the ceiling. There is something you missed, he said softly. Something they will find if they listen. He wouldn't say more. He smiled at the camera instead. The trial opened 2 weeks later under heavy guard. Reporters whispered. Pencils scratched. The prosecutor laid out a clean, steady timeline. Bus logs. Library records. Shoe prints. The map of Tulsa with red pins. Then came the quiet bomb, the lab report from the kitchen. The courtroom went still, no details read aloud, only the conclusion, behavior that proved intent and showed a mind searching for power beyond money or payback. Kelly rose and spoke about childhood, fear, and a brain not yet fully grown. He is not a monster, she said. He is a broken boy who made terrible, criminal choices. Some people nodded. Others stared at Joshua as if he were a locked door they never wanted to open. Near the end of the day, the judge asked if Joshua wanted to say anything before the court adjourned. He stood, small in a big room. He looked at the jurors, then at the back row where his mother sat, hands clasped. You think the story ends here, he said in a calm voice. It doesn't. You missed something important. A murmur rolled through the benches. Where? The judge asked. Joshua's eyes slid to Detective Danner. Locker 213, he said. Bus depot. Bottom shelf. The words hit like a thunderclap. Bailiffs moved. The gallery buzzed. Danner was already on his phone, sending a team. Joshua sat down slowly and pressed his palms flat on the table, that thin smile returning as the courtroom doors swung open and officers rushed into the hall.